Hello, welcome to our VodCast. I'm Bella.
And I'm Cassie.
Today we're going to be talking about the graphic novel Persepolis. There's much controversy surrounding the book for its use of graphic imagery and graphic language. We will go into depth about why it was originally banned and if it should stay banned. We hope you enjoy.
Before we start talking about Persepolis, we wanted to share other books that are on the banned book list. First, let me tell you what a banned book list is. A banned book list is a list made by the ALA Office for Intellectual Freedom, or OIF, which compiles a list of challenged books as reported in media and submitted by librarians and teachers across the country. These books are placed on this list because they are violent, have contradicting political views, sexualize people, have poor effects on the readers, or create abstract beliefs. A few of the other books that have been placed on the list include The Hunger Games, The Hate You Give, Harry Potter, and To Kill a Mockingbird. Many of these books have been read by students either outside or inside a classroom setting. These are only a few books that have created controversy on if they should be placed on this list or not, just like the book we will be talking about today, Persepolis. Persepolis is a graphic novel written by Marjane Satrapi, who tells readers her story. She grew up in Iran during its revolution, and there are many harsh and scary events that she had to go through and experience as a young child. And she lived through these events firsthand, and when she was older, she wrote a novel to inform many of what happened and from her perspective. This book uses much graphic imagery, language, and it goes into depth about what happened. This book also provides history and education and is a primary source to learn about this historic event. However, this book has brought up much controversy on if it should be banned for younger readers or not, and we will discuss more of this on the podcast.
Persepolis was abruptly banned in Chicago's public schools due to its graphic imagery, and is currently still banned for younger students. Chicago isn't the only place that decided to ban Persepolis. It is also banned in Iran for 7th graders. The film was temporarily banned in Lebanon, but it was reinstated due to public outrage. The photo shown on the bottom right of the screen is from the book, and it's on page 5. It's showing Ahmad being cut into pieces after being tortured. This image is one of the reasons Iran and Chicago banned the book for 7th graders. Many articles after hearing Chicago's ban started to go through the book to see what's not appropriate for classrooms. One article wrote that the graphic language and images are not appropriate for general use in the 7th grade curriculum. The book shows people being whipped, burned with an iron, and being pissed on. The drawings of the man being tortured aren't the only reason the book was banned. Marjane also describes what the man is going through while he's being held against his will, and how he is connected to her story, which can be a difficult topic for some children to deal with. Knowing that this man wasn't just a fictional character, and that this actually happened to people while she was still growing up, could be a lot for a 7th grader to take in.
An article written about the Chicago banning stated that Persepolis was removed only from classrooms due to the graphic language and images and them not being appropriate for general use. Some believe that the graphic imagery and language will scare the younger readers, and this is one of the few reasons why the book is on the ban list. Throughout the whole book, she uses strong vocabulary and imagery to depict what her life was like. She uses these strong vocab and images to just show really how it was when she lived through these events firsthand.
This image is depicting torture techniques during an eventful period in Iranian history. These different techniques are during the same time the Shah was trying to be overthrown, and is the main reason the book was banned in the first place. You can see the man being whipped while tied down, the officer pissing on his back, and him being burned with an iron. Unfortunately, these were common torture methods during this time period, and after all, this man ends up being chopped up into pieces, as shown in the previous slide.
While all we've said was why people think this book should be banned, there are also people out there who disagree and believe that the book shouldn't be banned. This book gives lots of insight into what Iranian life was like during this time period. It depicts first-hand encounters of what it would have been like living. Satrapi lived through these major events as a child with her mother and father, and throughout her novel, she talks about many gruesome and scary things she thought. She talks about practices or events that her family had to go through, and one that stood out to us while reading this novel was how she was talking about how her and her family had to escape in a flock of sheep to get across the border to stay safe, and this reveals to us how frightening and scary it would have been like to live during this time period. We also would have never known this just reading the basic textbooks that we read in history class, but since we got to read this first-hand encounter, we now know this. And the graphic novel is also said to educate readers, and many sources we found said it was a prime opportunity to educate students, and that nothing taught easily is noteworthy. So yes, many say this book is harsh, but that's because it is filled with so much detail and events that may be hard for some to hear, but it's all worth it. Also, bringing back to the main idea that this book shows real life, nothing was ever sugar-coated or censored in this book, because if that was the case, we would not be able to call it history or educational. The novel doesn't hide anything, and that's why many believe it is so beneficial to be taught in classrooms to students.
An article was written right after the book was published. They wrote a review about the controversial topics, and it stated that Persepolis is an absolutely amazing book filled with happiness, grief, and moments of childhood in a world where all children are forced to grow up.
On this slide is a graphic image from a model. This is one of many images that provide history. Depicted in this image is Iranian men and women attire. This allows readers to realize that there are many harsh and strict rules to follow during this time period, and if you dress a certain way, you are viewed upon as differently. Women, like Satrapi, can't have their hair showing, or it would show that you are in opposition, and men cannot grow up beards. It is more or less frowned upon during this time. She includes images that give great insight to the history of Iran. Some students are visual learners, so her including these images could help many, but she also just doesn't do images. It's not a picture book. She has words, notes that help pull the image together and just provide an explanation to what is being shown. The novel has many images that reveal history of Iran in a visual way, and she uses these images throughout the book. Not all are harsh or gruesome. Some may be, though.
Okay, so this is going to be our final thoughts. After the Chicago ban, many people went out and protested against the ban. People were confused and angry on why it was even banned in the first place. Once Chicago released that it was banned due to its graphic imagery and the graphic language, more people became angry. I think it's ridiculous to ban the story while most 7th graders these days have a cell phone or a gaming system, which can show them a lot more violence than what's in Persepolis. Persepolis is a story about Marjane and what she's actually going through as a child. It may be upsetting to some readers that a child had to endure so much at a young age, but I think it's important for younger students to hear her story. I can understand why some parents wouldn't be happy with this book being a part of their child's curriculum. But then a year later, like as a 7th grader, they end up reading The Diary of Anne Frank, which is an amazing story, but it's also very sad. Anne Frank's story is a lot more heartbreaking and terrifying than a single page of Persepolis. Overall, I think the Persepolis shouldn't have shouldn't have been on any banned book list to begin with, and I don't think it should stay on the banned book list. It's about a true story of a young girl who tries to navigate life.
I would also agree with Bella on this, that Persepolis should not be banned. It should not be placed on the banned book list because it allows for readers to learn more of what life was like during this time period. I would prefer, as a student, reading this graphic novel over reading a textbook because it's more interesting to me. Also, the including of images really helps me better grasp and understand what life was like during this time. And I do also believe, with what other sources found, that nothing will come easy. So yes, there is going to be some graphic images or languages that might be scary, but we will take away from that and it will leave an impact on us how harsh the life was like back then. And yeah, I would take it off the ban list because it really does, I think, help educate younger readers, and it gives a real life story, an encounter of what happened.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Have a great day.
Yes, thank you for listening to our podcast on Persepolis and the controversy over it, on if it should be placed on banned book list or not. There are many reasons supporting both sides. Now it's time for you guys to decide where you stand.